We got a really provocative piece of reading from you this week.
Yeah.
ASI government takeover by 2027. A thought experiment.
Ah, right. That one. It's definitely designed to make you think.
It really is. And that's exactly what we're going to do now, a deep dive into this fascinating what if.
Well, it's interesting because this article, it connects directly to the ideas in that other paper, the AI 2027 paper.
Okay.
But it takes a completely different angle, like almost the opposite.
How so?
Instead of, dwelling on all the potential dangers and negative stuff with advanced AI.
Right, the usual focus.
Exactly. It asks, well, what if ASI, artificial superintelligence, could actually be a good thing for how we govern ourselves?
Okay, so a positive framing. And it's important for everyone listening to understand this isn't us saying this will happen.
Oh, absolutely not. It's purely a thought experiment.
Right, exploring this idea, this creative look at a future where ASI is like central to U.S. governance.
And it comes from a place that's, well, critical of how AI is often talked about,
Yeah.
the negativity.
Yeah, the doom and gloom narrative.
The author specifically takes on that AI 2027 paper.
And raises questions about it.
Yeah, some, I think, pretty fair points about its foundation. You look at the authors.
The super forecasters and the former OpenAI person.
That's them. Now, they bring certain insights, obviously, but the critique is they maybe lacked that really deep practical experience in things like infrastructure, cybersecurity, or complex systems-level AI.
Okay, so maybe more theoretical than practical on some fronts.
That's the argument. And the methodology, too, was quite speculative, wasn't it?
Imagined events, yeah. Less data-driven, more like a story about what could go wrong.
Exactly. A narrative with a built-in bias, maybe, assuming AI equals danger.
So this new piece challenges that assumption head-on.
Pretty much. It's saying, hang on, seriously think about a different path, maybe a more optimistic one.
Okay, so the core question we're diving into for you today is really, what if we stopped just, focusing on the risks of ASI and actually considered the potential upsides?
Right. What if society saw it as a tool, potentially a very powerful one, for improving how things are run?
So let's start there. What actually sparked this alternative view in the article?
Well, what's really striking is the author mentions feedback from their own audience.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, apparently a surprising number of people were supportive or at least, open to the idea of an ASI-led government.
Really? Why?
It seems less about loving AI and more about deep frustration with the current systems.
Okay, that makes sense. I saw some of the quotes mentioned.
Yeah, things like, don't threaten me with a good time.
Chuckles slightly.
What?
And just, bluntly, anything is better than this.
Wow. That really suggests a feeling out there that maybe things are, well, broken for a lot of people. Does that resonate with you listening? That desire for something fundamentally different? It really points to a potential appetite for big change. And that kind of sets the scene for the main part of the article.
Which is this hypothetical timeline.
Exactly. A 4-stage timeline for how this ASI government thing could theoretically happen by 2027.
Okay, let's break that down. Stage 1 seems to be about AGI or ASI just showing up soon. Like 2025, 2026.
Yeah, and it makes a bold claim suggesting that, depending on how you define it, AGI might arguably already exist in some ways.
That's always a tricky definition, general intelligence.
It is. But the key point the article stresses is the momentum, the sheer speed of development.
Exponential growth in model power,
Yeah,
right?
right.
And algorithms getting way more efficient.
Exactly. It's this technological force building up.
And it connects that to humanoid robots becoming widespread.
Deployed quite broadly, potentially soon. And these aren't just clunky factory arms. We're talking machines with dexterity, stability, precision. Maybe better than humans in many tasks.
Okay, picturing that. Robots doing a lot more in daily life.
Right. And crucially, the article warns against anthropomorphism.
Projecting human feelings onto AI.
Exactly. The argument is ASI doesn't need to feel anything like us or want the same things to be aligned. Alignment could just be logical, objective, based on the goals we set.
Okay, no human emotions needed for it to function as intended.
That's the idea. Which then leads into stage 2.
The economic disruption and the 2026 midterms, this is where the tech hits society politically.
Yeah, this is where it gets potentially really disruptive for people's lives. The article predicts massive job displacement.
How massive?
The number thrown out is 50 to 70% by 2026 due to AI-powered automation.
Wow, okay, 50, 70%. That's huge. Now, that's a projection, obviously.
Of course. The exact scale, the timing, economists debate that constantly.
Yeah.
But the underlying trend, automation affecting jobs, that's definitely happening.
The article says this huge economic shock makes universal basic income, UBI, the main issue.
Right. The central issue for the 2026 midterms. Imagine millions facing job loss.
They'd be looking for answers.
Yeah.
Security.
Precisely. And the idea of UBI could suddenly seem very, very appealing.
So the voting psychology.
Yeah.
The article suggests people might vote for UBI and ASI governance.
Kind of as a package deal, maybe out of a desire for, peace, comfort, stability, rather than just endless work that might disappear anyway.
A quote was pretty blunt, wasn't it?
Yeah. Vote for this guy and get $2,000 a month. Sign me up. It suggests a potential shift in what people value or prioritize. Comfort over labor, perhaps.
Okay, so if that wave happens, economic anxiety, openness to AI solutions, that sets up stage 3.
The 2027 government mandate.
Yeah. So a pro-ASI government gets elected. Then what?
Well, the vision here is a kind of blockchain-powered state.
Okay, unpack that. Blockchain state.
Imagine government functions, all of them, run by AI agents, and it all happens on decentralized blockchain infrastructure.
Like a super transparent, secure digital ledger for everything the government does.
That's the core idea. Transparency plus maybe built-in incentives for alignment. Because it's all recorded, unchangeable decisions based on clear rules.
Could that actually reduce corruption? Inefficiency?
That's the hope expressed in the article. Take the human fallibility out of certain loops.
And it's not just about administration, right? It mentions civic life.
Yeah, a potential revival. If people aren't working 40-plus hours just to survive thanks to automation and UBI.
They have more time, energy.
Maybe. For community, for engaging in governance itself, the article even floats this idea of a digital Athens.
Like direct democracy, but online?
Sort of, using things like civic chains, blockchain platforms for citizen input, and smart contracts to automate agreements and processes.
That's ambitious.
Yeah.
Tech enabling more direct citizen power.
It's definitely an optimistic vision.
Which leads to the final stage, stage 4. A post-labor economy by the end of 2027.
Yeah.
That sounds almost utopian.
It does lean that way. The term used is hyperabundance.
Meaning?
AI-driven efficiency makes goods and services incredibly cheap, like costs potentially slashed by 90%.
Okay, so even a modest UBI would go a really long way.
Right. High quality of life could be achievable for many.
And work becomes optional.
More or less. It's something you do for fulfillment, creativity, contribution, not just survival. Leisure, learning, community become more central.
But money still exists in this scenario.
Yeah, the article suggests it would. Still needed for price signals, resource allocation, even if costs are way down.
And some things might become free, like utilities.
That's suggested too. Essential services provided as a public good.
Okay, that whole 4-stage picture sounds incredibly transformative. Almost too good to be true.
Well, and the article does hit the brakes a bit there. It includes a reality check.
The feasibility challenges. Good. But you have to ask, could this actually happen?
Exactly. And the author admits, yeah, there are major roadblocks, like just the sheer institutional paralysis in the U.S. system.
Things move slowly. Big changes are hard.
Incredibly hard, especially that fast. Then there's resistance from, entrenched power.
Elites, corporations, people who benefit from the status quo.
They likely wouldn't go along quietly.
Plus, public opinion. People are pretty skeptical, even scared of AI.
Big time.
Yeah.
Overcoming that skepticism, the misunderstandings, that's a huge hurdle.
And is the tech even ready? Is ASI truly autonomous enough for all that?
The article concedes not yet. Not for totally unsupervised long-term planning across everything. That's still ways off.
And finally, just coordinating it all.
Perfect coordination, which, let's be honest, rarely happens in complex human endeavors.
Okay, so lots of reasons why it might not play out like this.
Definitely. But then the article pivots again. It argues the U.S. might actually be maybe uniquely positioned to try something like this.
Really? Why the U.S.?
Well, it points to our democratic mechanisms. They might be slow, but they do allow for big shifts if the public will is there.
Okay, and the private sector leadership in AI.
That's huge. A lot of the core tech is being built here.
Does federalism fit in somehow?
The argument is that our decentralized system, state versus federal, individual focus, it might actually map surprisingly well onto decentralized blockchain governance.
Huh. An interesting angle.
And, the potential first mover advantage. if the U.S. pulled this off.
It could solidify dominance for a long time.
That's the implication.
So taking a step back, the core message here isn't really predicting this, is it?
No, not at all. It's about challenging a narrative.
The ASI is the boogeyman narrative.
Exactly, saying that's based on fear and maybe there's an alternative future we could aim for. One that's inspiring, actionable, even desirable.
An AI renaissance instead of an AI apocalypse.
That's the phrase used, yeah. Let's imagine that instead of just the disaster scenarios.
So for everyone listening, this has been quite the exploration of a thought experiment.
It's definitely thought-provoking.
It's a direct answer, really, to all the anxiety around AI's rapid rise. But instead of more warnings, it paints this, well, surprisingly optimistic picture. Speculative, yes, but optimistic.
We've touched on both sides, the fear versus this potential for AI to really reshape things for the better.
So we're curious, thinking back to when you first heard the title, ASI Government Takeover, what was your gut reaction? And has digging into this hypothetical scenario maybe shifted your view, even a little?
And maybe one final thought to leave you with. If we even just entertain this possibility, this idea of an AI renaissance,
Yeah.
what should we be doing now? What are the crucial steps, the ethical questions we need to tackle? Not just to prevent the bad stuff, but to actively steer things towards that kind of positive future.
What's our role as citizens in shaping whatever comes next, instead of just waiting for it to happen?
Good questions to ponder.
Definitely. And if this deep dive got you thinking and you want to see the original ASI Government Takeover by 2027 piece, you can find it on YouTube. It's worth a watch.
For sure.
Thanks for taking this deep dive with us.